Spectrophobia. So it's a new morning and you wake up at your usual time to start your day. Brush your teeth, drink coffee, and then head out for your morning run. However, just as you stumble into the bathroom with blurry eyes, you glimpse something that sends shivers down your spine. You freeze up like someone who just saw a ghost dripping in blood, but what you actually just saw is your reflection. This is because you have a phobia called spectrophobia, which is an intense fear of seeing your own reflection on anything, most especially in the mirror. You see, while mirrors are that trusty everyday household item, for you it is simply the gateway to the start of a really bad horror movie because you have spectrophobia. The fear of reflective surfaces often develops after you had a traumatic experience involving mirrors. Maybe you watched a scary movie as a child where something horrifying crawled out of a mirror, or you experienced a situation where your reflection seemed unsettling and distorted. Over time, this anxiety snowballs, turning mirrors into something to be avoided at all costs, and everyday life can become a strategic dance of avoiding reflective surfaces. Just imagine how many reflective surfaces you can encounter daily. It would really just be a very hectic way of living. Anthophobia. Let's say you were swiping through Tinder when you saw this cute and gorgeous man, and you literally fell in love at first sight. 3 days later, you guys went on an amazing date with candles and a nice meal. As an intentional man, he sends a bouquet of roses with a sweet note to your office the next day, but when you see the flowers, you freak out and run out of your office like a bomb is on your table. It's as if the flowers were suddenly replaced with Medusa's head. This happens because you have anthophobia, which is the intense and irrational fear of flowers. If you have this phobia, flowers aren't a pretty sight that you can awe over. Rather, they are the devil's torture devices that have been sent to hunt you directly. The minute you come across any flower, you'll instantly feel horror and dread washing all over you. It's like living in an alternate universe where the villain isn't a fire-breathing dragon or a ghostly ghoul, but a daisy or a menacing tulip. For you, flowers symbolize danger, decay, or something deeply unsettling. Sometimes the phobia comes because of what you think of flowers, like funerals, sorrow, and loss. Some people develop this phobia also if they've ever experienced something traumatic, like a close encounter with an allergy-inducing pollen storm, or a childhood memory of being forced to walk through a particularly creepy garden. However, while avoiding flowers entirely might seem like a reasonable solution, it is not very practical because they are literally everywhere. So your best bet at overcoming anthophobia is simply therapy. Omphalophobia. It's a very hot summer, and while most people rock crop tops and bikinis, you spend your entire time covered up in sweats and avoiding anyone with their tummy out. You even avoid looking at your own belly no matter what. This weird habit is because you have omphalophobia, which is a fear of belly buttons. Yes, you heard this right. That little knot in the middle of your tummy is enough to send some folks into a paralyzing panic attack. You would treat every exposed midriff like it's a portal to another dimension. It's as if you believe belly buttons are secretly alien implants or miniature black holes just waiting to suck you in. For someone with omphalophobia, activities like dressing, bathing, or seeing a belly button on TV can trigger feelings of panic, nausea, or disgust. It's like having an internal alarm system that goes off every time a belly button enters your field of vision and would avoid anywhere you might encounter an exposed belly button. The cause of this irrational fear often starts if you had a negative experience with belly buttons as a child. Maybe you were told not to touch it because it could open up or unravel. While meant to be harmless, these kinds of stories can leave a lasting impact. Euphobia. Normally, when most people hear good news, they get all excited and might even go out with friends to celebrate. But for people with euphobia, hearing good news feels like they have an AK-47 gun pointed at their head. They would feel extreme unease, anxiety, and downright terror, and this is all because they have an irrational fear of good news. However, it is not the good news itself that's scary, but what might come after. There's a sense of too good to be true, or the belief that something bad must be just around the corner. You practically treat every bit of good news like a thundercloud is lurking behind it, waiting to strike. Imagine getting an email that says, "Great news, your vacation request was approved." Instead of picturing yourself lounging on a beach, you might start worrying about everything that could go wrong. Delayed flights, lost luggage, sunburns, shark attacks, you name it. Suddenly, that relaxing getaway feels like a stress-inducing nightmare. You would even feel guilty sometimes about receiving good news, and this could lead to a constant state of worry where even the most innocent positive announcement feels like a ticking time bomb. This phobia can develop if you've had past experiences where good news was followed by something negative or a major disappointment, or perhaps you were raised in an environment where optimism was met with skepticism or fear. Kenophobia. It's another Monday morning and you are, of course, getting ready for work. You've brushed your teeth, had your bath, and now it's time to get dressed. However, the sight of the buttons, those small, round pieces of plastic or metal, sends a wave of discomfort through you. Your heart races, your skin crawls, and you just can't bring yourself to touch them. This isn't just a quirk or preference, it's a deep-seated fear of buttons known as Omphalophobia. If you have this phobia, buttons aren't just a functional part of everyday life, they're objects of dread that can trigger anxiety, disgust, or even panic. You would often go to great lengths to avoid encountering buttons. You'd exclusively wear pullovers and zip-ups, avoid craft stores like they're minefields, and treat every button-adorned garment like it's a booby trap. And don't even think about mentioning button collections. That's like suggesting you voluntarily step into hell. This fear normally starts when you have a scary encounter in the past with buttons, like mistakenly choking on one or an embarrassing wardrobe malfunction involving buttons. Pediophobia. You walk into a toy store to buy the latest toy car for your son, but you mistakenly go into the aisle filled with all sorts of dolls. Suddenly, you are crouching down and holding your face in terror like someone just told you that an alien invasion is about to happen. This is because you have pediophobia, which is the intense, brain-twisting fear of dolls. According to you, those glassy eyes, frozen smiles, and stiff limbs suddenly seem menacing. Plus, dolls look almost human, and this particular quality makes them seem downright creepy. Pediophobia can develop from a variety of experiences. Perhaps it started in childhood with a particularly creepy doll that seemed to have a life of its own. Or maybe it was triggered by a scary movie where dolls played a sinister role. The brain, always eager to protect, starts associating dolls with fear, and suddenly you're living your whole life scared senseless when you see anything that even looks like a doll. Ombrophobia. So you're ready to head out to a cafe with friends. You're feeling good, ready to take on the day, but then you hear it, the distant rumble of thunder. You check your phone, and there it is, rain in the forecast. For most people, this might mean grabbing an umbrella or throwing on a raincoat, but for someone who has ombrophobia, the mere thought of rain turns your day upside down. As those first drops hit the window, your heart starts racing like a grizzly bear is chasing you, and you suddenly start feeling suffocated and choked. Suddenly, the idea of stepping out feels like preparing for a battle. You're thinking the whole city would flood or you'd slip and fall if you took one step outside the door. It's as if rain isn't just wet weather, but a full-blown disaster waiting to happen. This phobia often starts after you've had a very terrible experience with rain, thunder, or lightning. So now to you, there is always something unsettling about the way the rain changes the environment and the darkened skies that come with it. Scopophobia. Now, first things first, people glance at people all the time. The waiter serving you food at the restaurant, to the cab driver trying to give you change, or even the guy walking his dog down the street. Glancing or looking at people randomly is a very natural thing, but for someone with scopophobia, it's the most scary thing ever. You might as well just ask them to jump inside a volcano. They are so scared of people even glancing at them that they would literally wish the ground could open up and swallow them. You'd feel like you're under a very bright spotlight and everyone is just waiting to judge and criticize even the tiniest mistake or flaw. This would make simple activities like walking down the street or appearing in public where anyone could see you a game of serious hide and seek. You would always dress dress in a way that wouldn't draw any attention, and try your best to blend in at any opportunity. If you grew up in an environment where you were constantly judged, criticized, and laughed at, then you might develop this phobia. Gelotophobia. So, you went to your high school reunion party, and everyone around was joking and having a good time. Suddenly, the class clown cracks a joke, and the room erupts in laughter. Instead of joining in or even smiling, you feel a surge of panic. Your mind races, and you start to wonder if they're all laughing at you, or if you look ridiculous because, for some reason, they must all be laughing at you. This isn't just shyness or social anxiety, it is an intense fear of being laughed at, which is a phobia known as Gelotophobia. If you have this phobia, you would often misinterpret laughter around you, believing it's mockingly directed at you. Even in situations where the laughter is clearly unrelated, you would feel targeted and humiliated. It's like your brain has a built-in radar that constantly scans for any hint of mockery and is always on high alert. For you, laughter isn't just a joyous sound, but a potential weapon. This fear can stem from past experiences where you were laughed at in a cruel or humiliating way, leading to a deep-seated belief that laughter equals mockery. Imagine being a kid who's often teased at school. Over time, even innocent laughter can start to feel like an attack. Your brain would begin associating laughter with pain, creating a fear response that can persist into adulthood. Ephebiphobia. It's a bright and clear Saturday afternoon, and you're going to the grocery store to get a milk bottle. But as you're walking down the street, you spot a group of teenagers hanging out on the corner. Most people might not give it a second thought, but for someone with Ephebiphobia, you immediately feel your pulse quicken. You would even begin to think the most random, dangerous things, like what if they make fun of you or start causing trouble? The idea of interacting with them or just being in their presence fills you with anxiety because you view them as unpredictable, intimidating, or even threatening. This intense fear to seeing teenagers is called Ephebiphobia, the fear of teenagers. While it's common for adults to sometimes feel a bit disconnected or wary around younger generations, Ephebiphobia takes this to an extreme level. It's not just a preference to avoid teens, it's a deep-seated fear that can cause significant distress and lead to avoidance of any situations where teenagers might be present, even when there's no immediate threat. Most times, this fear starts when young people have bullied you in the past, or you've witnessed a young person being rebellious, unruly, or even dangerous. Caligynephobia. Now, you were walking down the street and saw this insanely beautiful woman. We are talking supermodel-level beauty. Now, while most people would stop to admire her and feel a bit shy, you would literally break out in a sweat, turn around, and walk in the opposite direction. This isn't just a case of being intimidated. It's an intense, overwhelming fear of beautiful women called Caligynephobia. It's like Mother Nature decided to play a cruel joke, turning her most stunning creations into terror-inducing sirens. You would feel a deep, often paralyzing fear that can lead to avoidance of any situation where a beautiful woman might be present. The root of this fear can be as complex as trying to understand why anyone would voluntarily wear stilettos for hours. Some people believe it may stem from negative or traumatic experiences with attractive women in the past, like being rejected, humiliated, or hurt. These experiences can create a lasting association between beauty and danger. Others believe it could be linked to societal pressures and unrealistic beauty standards. It's like their brain decided, better safe than sorry, and filed all beautiful women under potential ego destroyers. Decidophobia. So you went to get ice cream with some friends, and at the shop there are 31 flavors, and your friend casually asks you what flavor you would be getting. While they're excitedly scanning the menu, your mind goes into overdrive. You start to have thoughts like, what if chocolate is too rich? What if vanilla is too boring? Suddenly, what should be a simple, fun decision turns into a mini crisis. The pressures mount, and before you know it, you're sweating over something that's supposed to be a treat. This is what decidophobia, the fear of making decisions, does to you. It can make the simplest choices feel like a high-stakes game of what if. Deciding what to wear, what to eat, or which movie to watch can feel like you're standing at a crossroads with 100 different paths, each leading to a potential disaster. It's not just about picking one option, it's about the paralyzing fear that picking the wrong one could have catastrophic consequences. And this fear often stems from growing up in an environment where people made decisions that often led to disastrous consequences. Sophophobia. It was your first day as a receptionist in a large law firm, and even though you're excited about the opportunity, you can't help but feel really anxious and nervous. The idea of learning something new makes your palms sweaty, your heart race, and your mind scream, "Run!" This isn't just about boredom or uninterest, it's a full-blown fear. This is because you have sophophobia, which is the fear of learning or acquiring knowledge. While some people might find the prospect of learning something new exciting, someone with sophophobia sees it as a threat. This fear can be paralyzing, making even the simplest act of gaining new information feel like an insurmountable challenge. It's like your brain has put up a giant no entry sign when it comes to anything educational. However, we have great news on overcoming this fear and getting better. Our sponsor for today, Brilliant, can provide you with the easiest tools and the best platform to learn anything. You would not have to fear criticism or humiliation because they employ the best principle approach to help you build knowledge and understanding from the ground up. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving that lets you play with concepts, a method proven to be 6 times more effective than watching lecture videos. Plus, all content on Brilliant is crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from MIT, Caltech, Duke, Microsoft, Google, and more. You can also develop a powerful daily learning habit because Brilliant makes it easy for you to learn a little every day, which is one of the most important things you can do for both personal and professional growth. You would also build real knowledge in minutes a day with fun lessons you can do whenever you have time. You can become familiar with programming languages like Python, learn essential coding elements, and even develop your mind to think like a programmer. To be a part of this and try everything Brilliant has to offer, all you need to do is visit brilliant.org/theevaluator, or you can also find the link in our description below. You'll also get 20% off your annual premium and subscription, and everything is free for a full 30 days.